The first paycheck in recorded history was not money. It was not gold, not coins, not paper. It was beer. Thousands of years ago, some of the earliest workers we have records of were paid for their labor in daily rations of bread and beer. That was your salary, a loaf and a jug. And here is the thread that runs from that clay tablet paycheck all the way to the number in your bank account tonight. Every time money has changed its shape across history, from beer to silver to coins to paper to a glowing number on a screen, the same question has been hiding underneath. The form of money changed, but who gets to decide what your work is worth? That question never really went away. Start with the ordinary. Money feels like one of the most real things in the world. You work, a number goes up. You buy something, it goes down. It feels solid, permanent, almost like a law of physics. But money is not a natural object. It is one of the strangest ideas humans ever agreed to believe in, and it has been reinvented again and again, each time reshuffling who holds the power. Go back to the very beginning. In the first great cities, there were no coins. People worked, building, farming, hauling, and they were paid in what they needed to live: grain, bread, and beer, which was a daily staple, not a luxury. One of the oldest written documents humanity has ever uncovered is not a poem or a law. It is essentially a record of rations, a list of who received how much barley and beer for their work. The first paychecks in history were, quite literally, drinkable. But there was a problem with paying people in beer and grain. You cannot save it for long. You cannot easily carry a year's wages across a country. It rots. It is heavy. So humans reached for something that did not spoil and was easier to move: precious metal. Silver, weighed out on a scale. And this was the first great shift, because now your work could be turned into something that lasted, something you could store, hoard, pass down. But even that brought a new kind of power. When wages were grain and beer, the people who controlled the storehouses, the temple, the palace, controlled everyone who needed to eat. With weighed metal, the power moved to whoever owned the scales, whoever judged what was pure and what was not. A tiny adjustment, a dishonest weight, a little impurity in the metal, and value could be shaved away almost invisibly. Then came the next leap. Someone took that metal, cut it into standard pieces, and stamped a symbol on each one. The coin was born. And notice what that stamp really was. It was not decoration. It was a claim. A ruler's face pressed into the metal, saying, "This is real because I say it is real. This is worth what I say it is worth, and I guarantee it." In that single act, money stopped being just valuable stuff that anyone could weigh. It became something issued, something granted from above by an authority. Whoever owned the stamp now held a quiet, enormous power over everyone who used the coins. They could make more. They could change the metal. They could shave the value down and spend the difference. They could influence, in a very real way, how much everyone else's work was worth, simply by controlling the thing everyone else's work was paid in. The form of money had changed again. And once again, the same question appeared underneath it. Who controls this now? And what does that let them do to the rest of us? The pattern kept repeating. Centuries later, in China, people grew tired of hauling heavy strings of coins around, so they began trading paper notes that promised the coins existed somewhere safe. Paper money. It weighed almost nothing. You could carry a fortune in your pocket. But look closely at what just happened. The paper itself was worthless, just ink on a slip. It only had value because everyone agreed to believe the promise printed on it. Money had become almost pure trust, and whoever got to print the paper and make that promise held more power than any king with a chest of gold. And so it went. Paper gave way to numbers in a bank's ledger. Then those numbers moved onto cards you swipe, then into apps on a phone. Today, most of the money in the world is not coins or bills at all. It is data. Electronic figures moving invisibly between servers. The money in your account right now is, for the most part, not a stack of anything. It is a number that everyone agrees to honor. We have arrived at money that is almost entirely an idea. And here's the pattern that ties the whole story together. At every turning point, beer to silver, silver to coins, coins to paper, paper to data, the people who controlled the new form of money gained enormous power. The temple that stored the grain, the ruler who stamped the coins, the institution that printed the paper, the banks that hold the digital ledgers. Each time the medium changed, wealth and control flowed toward whoever sat closest to the source of the new system. The technology kept upgrading. The game underneath stayed strangely familiar. Control the money, and you control far more than money. Which brings us to right now. In the last several years, new forms of money have appeared, built to live entirely on the internet, with no king's face and no central authority stamping them. Supporters call them a revolution, a way to finally take control of money out of the hands of any single ruler or institution. And maybe there is something real in that. But if you have followed the story this far, you will notice something else too. This is just the next form in a chain thousands of years long. And history has a stubborn habit. Every time money changes shape, it promises freedom. And then the same question instantly returns. Who controls this one? The technology is new. The pattern is ancient. So step back and look at the deep truth underneath all of it. Money has no value on its own. Beer rots. Metal is just metal. Paper is just paper. A number on a screen is just light arranged in a pattern. None of it is worth anything until human beings collectively agree to believe it is. That is the secret hiding in plain sight. Money is, at its heart, a shared story. Maybe the most powerful story our species has ever told. It works only because everyone agrees to keep telling it. The moment a society stops believing in its money, the money turns back into what it physically was all along. Paper, metal, light, a broken promise. This has happened again and again throughout history. Currencies collapsing when the belief behind them evaporated, leaving people with piles of paper that could no longer buy a loaf of bread. And like any story, the person who gets to write it holds power. The one who defines the words. The one who decides how much exists. The one who sets what a thing is worth. That person, or institution, quietly shapes the lives of everyone living inside the story. We treat money like a hard fact of the universe, like gravity, but it is not. It is an agreement. A collective act of imagination, thousands of years old, that we have all agreed to treat as real. And that includes the most personal question of all. What is your time worth? The first workers did not decide they were worth a loaf and a jug of beer. Someone above them decided that. And in every age since, the value of a person's time and effort has been shaped, in large part, not by the worker, but by whoever sits near the top of the system. When you look at your own wage, your own salary, the number that supposedly measures the worth of your hours, it did not come only from you. It came from a vast, ancient machine for deciding what people are worth. The same machine that once measured a day of labor in barley. And notice how little say most people ever had in any of it. You did not choose to be paid in dollars or euros or whatever currency fills your account. You were simply born into a system already running, with rules already written by people you will never meet. You do not fully set the value of your own hours. Someone above you does. The same way a temple official once decided that a day of hauling stone was worth 1 jar of beer, not 2. You can work harder, train longer, get better at what you do. And still, the number attached to your time is decided, in the end, by forces much larger than you. Forces sitting near the top of a machine thousands of years in the making. The medium keeps getting more sophisticated, more invisible, more frictionless. But your position inside it may not have changed as much as it seems. So the next time you check your balance, that glowing number that feels so solid and real, remember what you are actually looking at. Not gold, not even paper. Just a story, thousands of years in the making, that everyone around you has agreed to believe. The first paycheck was beer. The newest one is light on a screen. But the oldest question has not changed at all. Who decides what you are worth? And who profits every time the answer is rewritten?